3, 2, 1, go. Alright guys, this is Pokemon Yellow Glitchless once again coming at you, but this time we've got another 72 frames improved from the Hypno and Koga's gym on, and I'm just going to walk you through the same improvements here again at the beginning. So the first thing we did is we did not set the options before starting the game. It is faster to set options in-game. There's some extra lag at that new game select screen. Now, the player name is totally the same, but there's going to be a little bit of a difference in the rival name here. We're writing a bunch of data into the rival name and then deleting it. We do want his name to be A because it is faster overall for his name to be a single character. However, we do need his name to have data written into it and then delete it. And you're going to see why in just a couple of seconds here as we go into the Oak cutscene. I think he's a Doxel mix. I think he's a Dachshund Beagle, but I'm not sure. So what you saw there at the Oak cutscene is there was a transition like this, going in two halves instead of a big wipe all the way around in a circle. That happened because there was a glitch where it read data from a temporary area of RAM where the rival name was written. This happens because when you go into that battle, it's expecting you to have a Pokemon with a level to compare against the enemy's level to determine how intense of an animation to use for the battle. But if you don't have a Pokemon at that point, right? You don't have any Pokemon caught yet. So there's a Pikachu with a certain level and you have nothing. So the game gets confused, it reads garbage data, and that garbage data happens to be, just coincidentally, where you're writing into with the rival name. So you can actually write data in and out of the rival name to manipulate the kind of animation you get when you get into the Pikachu encounter. So between moving the options in-game and then that animation change, we've already saved 40 frames. And now we're going to save another 14 frames here because what happens is we haven't set our options still. I mentioned setting our options in-game, but we actually pushed them back after this battle too. So you can see as Gen 1 Miss Growl, and then we get Tackle with the animation on instead of with the animation off. Because the Tackle animation on animation is 7 frames faster than the Tackle animation off animation. Again, the animations in the options being on makes the animation of Tackle faster than if the animations are off. And because Gravel doesn't have an animation, because we forced it to Gen 1 Miss, it's the only move that has an animation in that battle. So now we're going to do options after the Rival 1 battle, and now we've saved 54 frames in total up to this point. We have to manipulate that goalie to walk to the right or stay in place. If he walks to the left, he blocks our fastest path. And now we're at the parcel. Nothing fancy here, just optimal mashing. But we are still holding buttons through text. When you don't have your options set yet, your text speed is on medium, and you have to hold a button through any text to make it go at the fastest speed. This makes a lot of the manipulation for the first rival battle a lot more difficult, because you usually mash during text to cause extremely minute delays and force the game to have different RNG. And if you have to hold a button during all the text for the text to go faster, that makes it a lot slower to use the text mashing as a way of manipulating the speed of, or using the speed of the text as a way of manipulating the RNG. It's just a lot slower and more difficult. So finding those two Growl Gen 1 misses and the Tackle crits was a lot more complicated in this rewrite, but it's worth it, and you're going to see why with the Niddo catch. We just have to manipulate one more section of grass here, and you would think that it would be kind of difficult to manipulate away encounters, like, oh, or you have to sit and wait a while if you're going to get an encounter to make sure it doesn't happen. But what you can actually do is just walk in different paths, make NPCs show up on screen at different times, and or walk through the grass different amounts. And those kinds of things will slightly shift the RNG, so you don't have to necessarily actually cause a full delay to get an encounter, or not get an encounter. Now there in the mart, we bought one less Pokeball. The original Yellow Glitchless TASs bought an extra Pokeball in case we wanted to get a Sandshrew instead of Charmander, but in the end we did end up getting Charmander in any of the tasks I've done so far, so I removed the excess Pokeball for another 2 frames save. So now at this point we are 56 frames ahead, but we had to do a little bit of trickery. We had to do a bunch of delay in the rival fight that I didn't mention to align the D-sum. D-sum is a word describing a cycle that lasts about 13 seconds in which all the encounters rotate through. So we need the Nidoran level 6 male to show up in the grass sometime during an 8-step window that would align with this 13-frame cycle. So the practical upshot is that there's only about a 1 in 5 chance that any given task would be able to encounter the level 6 Nidoran male at all during the optimal time while you're walking through that grass. But what you can do is go all the way back to the rival battle and cause very different battle RNG in the rival battle. And what that does is it shifts the place you are at in the D-sum much later. So what we ended up doing is going back to the rival battle, losing 21 frames in the rival battle, but shifting and fixing the D-sum such that we could get Nidoran without barely any delay. So now, overall, we're 35 frames ahead of the old task through Nidoran, and then we saved 67 frames just now because we also botted out a Pidgeotto that had almost no delay in the forest and gave us good stats so that we could get 2 Pikachu crits onto the Pidgeotto. And then, after Pidgeotto crits Pikachu to finish him off, we swap in Nidoran, and Nidoran can now finish Pidgeotto after getting Red Bar maintenance from Gust. You can see us taking 21 here from the Pidgeotto. But we can tackle without a crit to finish the battle, which is an additional part of that 67 frames saved. So now we're a whole ton of frames ahead. And we're in the forest and we have to go do Bug Catcher 2. Now this is all stuff that would have been in the original first 2 tasks of Yellow Glitchless here. These fights are actually mostly about color lag management. So what we do here is on the Caterpie, we first hit it without critting our Horn Attack, maintain our red bar with Caterpie's hit, and then we crit a Horn Attack on the second turn. It's very essential to do the crit Horn Attack on the second turn, because if the HP bar ever changes color in battle, so if it goes into the yellow or the red, we lose 5 frames. So on this Metapod here, we stay in green on the first hit, and then go all the way to red on the second hit, so that we never get color lag from going into the yellow. And then we finish off with a Tackle, mostly just because we need to be very careful about our Horn Attack count management. Now, we get our Flyer. We need to get a Flyer at some point. The best place to get it is the forest still while we have Nidoran. The importance here is that we are in Red Bar during this catch, and we get Nidoran's Cry. There are other places that could make sense to get it, like we could get a Pidgey. Well, a Pidgey has a very short cry, so it's just the best flyer to get. But the other place we could get a Pidgey quickly is on the way to Vermilion. And this would be good because it would save 30 frames during the Cerulean PC usage where a bunch of Pokeballs show up. However, it would actually not work because at that point you have Nidoking, which is a much longer cry than Nidoran Male. And now here, we can get 2 Horn Attack crits. Most any crit will do here as long as it's 2 crits, and you can take out Caterpie in 2 shots. Also, you can see there, while we gave Caterpie a turn, and we didn't have the opportunity to maintain our red bar, or really we even want to, because we're going to need to manage our red bar more in just a second here. We gave the opposing Caterpie a string shot fail. And the reason we had Caterpie use that move is that the but it failed text of String Shot is a lot faster than the enemy Caterpie's attack missed text that you would get if a move such as Tackle were to be used. Now, this is one of my favorite fights of the entire run here, the Lightyear guy fight in Brock's gym. What's so crazy about this fight is the Lightyear guy has a Sandshrew that's very difficult to kill in 2 turns. So we start out with a Horn Attack. We can crit Diglett, no problem. Really easy 1-turn fight there, and we get a great red bar maintenance off of Diglett's 5 damage scratch. However, if we were to be hit by Sandshrew here, we would die, and Sandshrews' only move that it can use is Scratch. So we have to do a slight delay for Scratch to Gen 1 miss, and then we can Horn Attack again. The reason the delay is a little bit longer than a lot of the other delays you see in this game is that we have to simultaneously manipulate both that Scratch Gen 1 miss and a 1 in 39 critical onto the Sandshrew. So we're stacking up a series where we crit Diglett, then we take 5 damage, don't get crit from the Diglett, back. High roll crit the Sandshrew. You have to get like either the highest roll or the second highest roll. Then get Gen 1 missed, and then max roll crit the Sandshrew. The whole sequence is extremely rare and very difficult to find. What we do on the Geodude is we 1 in 39 double crits, not the double crit, the double kick, so they can do a 3 shake. And then we force Onix to bide. And with the bide active, we can do a min-roll double kick. And now we never hit Onix into red bar. So we did cause color lag going into yellow bar, but the way we managed the HP, he never went into red bar. And now we're through Brock at 12:07. And in RTA, that would actually be closer to a 11:53 Brock by the RTA timing. Continuing on to Route 3, now that we've beaten Brock, we don't buy escape ropes. In Pokemon Yellow, it's just as good to teach Dig to Charmander. Since it's so obvious to get Charmander, the best play really is just to teach that Dig there. And it's actually, escape roping is slightly slower than teaching Dig and using Dig. Like, the Dig uses are faster than escape rope uses. But I believe the teach is a lot faster in Red Blue. So the strategies work out a little bit differently. Now we have to level out of red bar here because there's no way to get red bar maintenance from this first fight without losing an entire turn. And the entire turn would be slower than the effects of being out of red bar for that one level up. And it's easy for us to get red bar back now on the Rattata here. So what we do here is we actually are critting the double kick onto the Rattata and getting a 1 in 39. So we both get quick attack and a 1 in 39 crit. Let me just check something quick here while we are on the battle. I want to check my audio sync. These fights are pretty straightforward crits, except for a 139 where we don't have to crit and it's one hit onto the Caterpie. can't hear exactly how the audio sync is doing. Guys, let me know in chat if there's an issue with the audio sync on the game, because it's a little bit off for me. But it could just be because I'm listening on a monitor. So the horn attack here needs to crit Caterpie. And we have to crit on the Metapod too. But then we can finish with a very quick double kick shake. And we have to get Harden from the Metapod. That Metapod only knows Harden. And it turns out that you cannot have a Harden Gen 1 miss. Now we have to manipulate not getting an encounter through that stretch of grass. And now we have to manipulate all of Mount Moon. You can see an A press there, warding away some encounters. And again there. What the A presses do is they cause a 2-frame delay, and those 2-frame delays shift the RNG enough that we don't get any more encounters all the way through the rest of the first floor. And we combine those A presses with those movement changes like I mentioned to generate very different patterns of encounters. More encounter manipulation here. I gotta check this again. Huh. So, just switching the monitor off and on worked fine for fixing whatever was going on with that audio there. It seems to only be affecting my end though, so we're fine. So, we don't have any changes here again still, like through these fights. These fights are happening the same way as in the previous Glitchless TASs. We're just continuing to manipulate the color lag variability and also combine those thoughts with thoughts like, should we have double kick finish off to get a shake animation? And also thinking of like, oh, well if we double kick here, this might cause not very effective text. But combining all that, it's really mostly just optimal to finish with a double kick if you can, otherwise use a move like Tackle first and then use Horn Attack crit on the second turn to stay in green bar the whole time. we get some swags. Cerulean PC, that's a new addition in this latest set of improvements to the TAS. What we do is we stop on a dime for just 2 frames, and then when you, it's called turn frame, when you turn in place without actually taking a step. You can only do that after having completely taken your character to a stop. And if you do that at a PC, then you can interact with the previous direction you were facing. So we interact with the PC above us even though we turn and look to the left. Now we have to evolve here before doing the Goldeen fight. The reason that we have to evolve the Nidoking here and not after the Goldeen fight is because Nidoking does not learn Poison Sting at level 19. Nidorino does learn Poison Sting at level 19. So if you take the savings of doing this Goldeen fight in Nidorino instead of Nidoking, it doesn't work out because the faster cry from Nidorino is completely obliterated by having to say no to learning Poison Sting. And now we're 64 HP. And we're going to have some nice technology for red bar management at Misty. So Misty's Staryu, we cannot kill it in one shot. In fact, we can only hit it to 1 HP. The lowest you can hit the Staryu is 1 HP. We take the opportunity to take a small hit from the Staryu, so that a Bubble Beam from Starmie, a normal Bubble Beam, will hit us to 1 HP without critting. Now, a big reason why we do Misty so early, ignoring the fact that Misty gives us tons of experience, is that a lot of these battles on the bridge would be a little bit faster potentially. The main reason that Misty being before the bridge is so important in TAS is that you can teach Bubble Beam quickly. You can just immediately go and teach Bubble Beam. And what that lets you do is get a shake animation off of Bubble Beam on all of these bridge fights. At least the ones where you can use Bubble Beam. And that crit onto the Eevee with double kick is a very difficult crit. I think it's a 1 in 39 double kick crit. Ah! I want to say double crit instead of double kick. But it's only 1 crit. You're just critting the 2-shake move on the first turn. So that you don't have to get two shakes. Now, the Caterpie and Weedle here are easily taken out with Bubble Beam. And you're going to see a trend of this all the way up the rest of the bridge. We manipulate not getting quick attacked by the Pidgey, then crit the Pidgey, and then crit, and then it ran female. Now we have a little bit of a difference here because we need some red bar management. We get crit by Rattata's quick attack to go back down to 1 HP. Now the same thing here, we have to manipulate not getting quick attacked by the Pidgey because we've already maintained red bar on the Rattata. And the reason we maintain red bar on that Rattata is that we want to have red bar maintenance happen next again in a very specific spot. The spot being the Raticate on the way to Vermilion, because it can maintain our red bar without needing to do a critical hit. It's a very... Raticate's a much stronger Pokemon than Rattata, so we can use that timing to get quick attacked, not get crit, and stay in red bar for long enough, actually, that we can get through the heal path in Pokemon Tower without getting attacked again. That's Jerry. Hi, Jerry. But while Jerry is having a fun time, we are also having learned Thrash. Now, the big difference between the TAS and RTA with Thrash is that Thrash, you usually, like, rush by using some rare candies. But in TAS, we realize, actually, if you're in red bar, then the Thrash teach is way faster, because all of those text boxes just fly through in red bar. That ends up being a big savings over RTA, where if you just rare candy in the overworld, you don't have red bar active during the Thrash teach, and it goes at a lot slower rate. Another advantage, though, of doing Misty first is that the Onix there, you can Bubble Beam it instead of having to use Double Kick and Crit. So, having already obtained Bubble Beam is helpful for both the Sandshrew on Nugget Bridge and the Hiker fight. Yeah, they don't, like, clarify that it's a nugget of gold or anything. They just say that you got a nugget. And what does, like, a 10-year-old think of when they hear the word nugget? Chicken nugget! So a lot of these fights here, there's 2 Pokemon that we have to take care of, and we're using Thrash. This is not actually the fastest way that these individual battles could be defeated. They could be defeated slightly faster if you were able to use Bubble Beam for the 2 pokes, or even 3 pokes, as long as there aren't critical hits involved. If you can just use Bubble Beam and not crit any of the turns, comparing that to Thrash and not critting any of the turns, Bubble Beam would be faster, even up to 3 turns long, because of Thrash's wind-up animation being a lot worse than the fact that it lets you skip picking which move you want to use. However, you cannot use Bubble Beam on all those fights without running out of PP, which you can't really refill very quickly. You don't really have PP filling moves until you get Ether here anyway. So the best play is to just use Thrash on those fights. And then here, we have the Bill cutscene, and conveniently, because we've already deposited Pikachu, we do not get any of the cutscenes that Pikachu would cause, and RTA can take advantage of that quite easily too. They just deposit Pikachu a little bit earlier, but then, oh, swag again! Swag cell separator. We looked up, and then we turned framed to the right, so that when we get pulled over by Bill after this cutscene, we're already facing the direction he pulls us. And now the Walk of Shame back to Cerulean. But, because we've already defeated Misty, we don't have to take those extra steps back down towards Misty's gym. We can just take a straight right and go to the dig route. And now we have Dig, which is going to be critical later in the game. Oh, the big reason really that Red-Blue goes with the escape rope buying path, where Yellow goes with the dig teaching path, is that in Red-Blue you can dig back from the Bill house to Cerulean, and you don't have to walk the whole distance. In Yellow, you cannot do that. So, in Red-Blue, you want to have escape ropes accessed already by that point. You could pick up the escape rope in Moon to take care of that same problem, but the amount of time difference of picking up that escape rope compared to just buying escape ropes and never teaching Dig, it works out a little bit better to grab the escape ropes. And then also, you're worried about things like bag management in Red-Blue, and having that bag slot filled with escape ropes is pretty useful. And it ends up being a perfect way to drop the slot when you go from the final gym battle to Giovanni to dig out of Sabrina and have that be the last escape rope that you use, so then you have a slot open for Giovanni to give you Fissure. And here's where I was talking about with the quick attack. So we get quick attack non-crit from Raticate. We only take 8 damage, and at that 3 HP when we hit the heal pad at Viridian Tower, or sorry, what did I say? At Pokemon Tower in Lavender, when we hit the heal pad, we will still be in red bar by exact HP. And now we're on the SSN. This fight is very different in TAS compared to RTA, and we're going to see why in just a second. We're using the traditional method, though, of walking all the way along the far side of the wall so that the rival has less steps to take as he leaves the cutscene. But in TAS here, unlike RTA, we get to thrash the fight. It's a 4-turn thrash, so it is faster to thrash. There's no worrying about whether Ball Beam would be faster with the Shake animation. And all we have to do is crit the Sandshrew with the thrash. Sandshrew is very tanky. And then Eevee can get a range, actually, to not crit. So that's a really nice little precise play there of only having to crit the Sandshrew on that 4-turn thrash. Now we're going to see some extra technology here as we leave the SSN. And it relates to Surge's trash cans. And also, we got cut from the Shipmaster. That was very helpful. But you can see an A-press there. That A-press helps us manipulate the position of the trash cans in Surge's gym. The reason that A-press happens there and not anywhere else is Surge's trash cans are determined upon entering Vermilion City. The values of the trash cans are randomly rolled upon entering Vermilion City. We'll hook up by the stream one. So, entering Vermilion City, you would think it happens when you go in from the top from Cerulean, but actually you enter Vermilion City when you get off of the boat, because the SSN is not part of Vermilion City. So we use that A-press on the boat to change the exact time we leave the boat to get different RNG upon entering Vermilion City and getting exactly the trash can we want to have the least movement on the way to Surge. And it has to be specifically that center left side trash can, because if it were any other trash can, like perhaps the very middle row, the top one and the bottom can, those have a second can which requires you to walk up into the corner of Surge's gym to get the second can switched. That center left side can you can walk through without any extra steps on the way to Surge, and then the second can is also on the way to Surge, whether it's on the top, above that can, or to the right side of that can. Then on Surge here, both of Raichu's turns, we cause Raichu to miss Growl. That's not a Gen 1 miss. In Pokemon Gen 1, I forgot to mention earlier when I was talking about getting that "but it failed" text, but the reason that we can make them fail those moves so easily is that all opponent status-affecting moves have an additional 25% chance to fail. So we can manipulate moves like Growl when they're used by the enemy to fail very easily. It's only a 1 in 4 extra chance. But when we use moves like Growl, when we need to do Gen 1 miss, like when we intentionally lose the opening rival battle, we want those growls to Gen 1 miss, which is the 1 in 256 chance to miss that any move has. Another interesting fact about the choice to lose the Rival 1 battle, there's a couple things going on there, but the keys are that there's nothing gained in winning. Like the level up jingle and move learn jingle you get on Pikachu have no benefit in the TAS, because Pikachu still can get Pidgeotto low in 2 Thunder Shocks, and can't get Pidgeotto low enough in just 1 Thunder Shock with any additional leveling. Here we're teaching Thunderbolt and getting the bike moved up to the top of the menu. But yeah, so we do also want to lose that initial rival battle, specifically because that gives the opponent's loadout Ninetales, which has Quick Attack, which is very useful for Red Bar maintenance. And we will see that through the rest of the run. We call this fight 4-turn Thrash fight usually, and here we don't have to worry about whether the Thrash is 3 or 4 turns, because like all of the other RNG in the game, we can manipulate how long the Thrash lasts. Another important thing to talk about with the TAS is why this RNG manipulation works so well on console. The reason that the RNG manips are just as easily executable on console is that all the manipulation is doing is precisely changing exactly how long the console has been on. The RNG in the game is tied to a CPU cycle counter called the divider, and that divider increments a certain amount every number of frames and every number of CPU cycles. So because in Pokemon Gen 1 frames are not necessarily a static length of cycles, you can cause different amounts of time between successive calls of the RNG and generate different events, like getting a certain move rolled, or whether that move crits or doesn't crit, whether it lasts 3 or 4 turns when you use a move like Thrash, how much damage exactly the moves do, because they have the damage range from 85 to 100%. And here we have to manipulate away encounters in Rock Tunnel. But yeah, so we can use things like A presses and changing the patterns of how we walk to slightly change exactly how long the console has been on until the RNG is called, and then we get different RNG. Now we're on the second Rock Tunnel fight. The first one went just as we expected with a Ball Beam and a Thunderbolt, and now on the second fight in Rock Tunnel, again we can just use a quick Thunderbolt as we planned. Here in RTA, the Oddish and Bulbasaur are usually a range, but because, again, of being able to manipulate RNG, we can guarantee that we clear both the Oddish and the Bulbasaur range. And then continuing on here, in Rock Tunnel we have some A presses to ward away encounters before a long stretch of being able to simply change walking directions, and some A presses again there, warding away encounters. Now here is one of the reasons why we've been using Thrash so much. We do need to save 3 ball beams for the Geodudes and Traveler here on the Hiker. Now, a big reason that we have to save the ball beams in Yellow is that we have the ability to. In Red-Blue, you actually run out of ball beams before you get Thrash because of lower levels up to that point. You actually have to use more ball beams, and you run out by the time you would be able to save them for the Hiker. So you end up needing to use a different strategy on the Geodudes and the Graveler, which is forcing their self-destruct move to Gen 1 miss you. So they kill themselves with self-destruct, and then the attack Gen 1 misses. But again, sadly, that strategy doesn't work as well in Yellow, because we have additional ball beams from being able to learn Thrash slightly earlier. And now, guys, we're getting up to a section of the run that I'm very excited about to talk about new improvements that have been found for Gen 1 Glitchless TASing. So the first thing here is getting up to the Gambler fight. The Gambler fight we are still doing, but it's very interesting why we are still doing it. In the last playback I did doing a verification of Yellow Glitchless, Pinkish Princess mentioned, hey, have you checked doing the double Clefairy fight here instead of doing the Gambler fight? And I might have checked this before and come to the same conclusion, but I wanted to double check. Let's try doing the Clefairy fight. And if you fight the 2 Clefairies, you get enough less experience that you actually get outsped by another Pokemon later in the run at the Koga Kadabra fight. That first Juggler has 3 Drowsies and a Kadabra, and the Kadabra just barely is fought at 1 lower level and outspeeds you by 2 speed because of the point at which you level up with that less experience from the Clefairies. So even though the battle is slightly slower, we have to fight the Gambler to not get outsped. If you were to get outsped, it would lose a couple of seconds versus only 1 second lost fighting the double Clefairy battle. Now you can see as we walked up there in the mart, we A-pressed. That was to change the NPC over to the right here, so that she walked down instead of walking up, and we could walk efficiently over. And now here on all of these marts, we do very precise mashing to double buy the item. Like there we bought 2 Pokedolls, and so by buying 2 Pokedolls, we'll have an extra slot filled in our bag, and our bag will be able to fill up to all 20 slots by the time we get to Koga, so Koga won't be able to give us his TM. Up to this point, we wanted all of the TMs we could get, like Brock's TM. I can't really change whether or not you get that one, because your bag is nowhere near full. Then Cerulean, you want to get Bubble Beam, and at Surge, you want to get Thunderbolt. So, after those 3 first gyms, you can skip all the text involved in getting a TM from the gym leader by having your bag full. And we don't need anything like Koga's Toxic. I love there you can bike into the bottom part of the map and you enter from the top side once you're in the building. That only works in Yellow. And now at the Fly Split, we're getting HM2 Fly at the 49.55 mark. That's just absolutely beautiful to see. Sub 50 Fly. And now we're on the flute split. This does have an improvement from this latest round of improvements. It was seen in the previous verification I did, but we'll just explain it again here. So, we go to the Lavender Tower rival, the Pokemon Tower rival fight. And in the previous tasks we had done, we just used all of our horn drills. We just do drill, 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 drill. And that ended up being kind of slow compared to a new thing that I found, where we can actually thrash the last 4 Pokemon on this fight. Yeah, TAS is very fast. TAS guy knows what he's doing. Here, it's actually Jerry. Jerry's a really good at Pokemon. See, keep the controller. Want to play the TAS, Jerry? Yes. It's actually Jerry beating Lavender Rival right now. But yes, the sequence of 4 turns of thrashing there ended up saving us another 9 frames on the previous TASs, where we had used Horn Drill through the whole fight. And the comparison there being, well, there's that wind-up from Thrash, but is the wind-up worse than all of the text that you have to see when Horn Drill has that one-hit KO text? So now here we have a difference in TAS versus RTA that's been being used for a while, where in RTA you get the rock slide move from the Drink Girl on the top of the Celadon Mart. And in TAS we don't need to do that because we can reliably crit Thunderbolt on all the Ghastlies. If you don't have that crit reliability in RTA, there is a strat where you can just go in and Thunderbolt all the Ghastlies, but you open yourself up to being licked and Nightshaded and all that, and you just, it's very risky. It's very, very, very risk prone. But here, now, we have one more Channeler fight after this one, and we've gotten through the heal pad. So, like I was saying back at Raticate, our HP was precisely managed so that we would be at the maximum HP we could be at and still be in red bar when we hit the heal pad, and it no longer mattered because all of our level ups up until we can get red bar back would be in the normal HP anyway, in green HP. Interestingly, in red-blue, red bar is more powerful. It cancels more jingles than in yellow. So you want to get red bar back right away, especially with all the additional fights that happen on the top of the Lavender Tower. In yellow, there's fewer fights between here and Hypno, and red bar is not as powerful. So the fastest thing to do is just to use the Celadon Center, not worry about our HP between here and the Celadon Center, and then get our red bar back at Hypno. But in red-blue, the red bar is so powerful that we actually ignore the time lost to never centering in Celadon. And we just stay in red bar the entire time. So like there we lose 2.5 seconds because we level up in green bar, but the amount of time it would take us to get red bar here and then immediately losing it again by centering in Celadon, it's just not worth it worrying about. then a 5537 flute in yellow. I love that. 5537 flute. So you see here, now because we're still at the maximum HP, we can afford to take the center without losing red bar. And now we go on our quest to get the Surf and Strength HMs and unlock Fuchsia as a fly destination. At the same time, we're swapping up our X speeds and using the Poke Flute. We're going to need to use X speed several times in the TAS here to make sure that while we're using our one-hit KO moves, that we still outspeed the opposing Pokemon. The one-hit KO moves will fail, one, if they miss, because they're only 30% accurate. They also can fail if you are not faster than the opposing Pokemon. So we do need a couple of X speeds, and by a couple I mean 7 X speeds, to manage all of the fights where we might be otherwise slower. Another interesting quirk here, it is a lot faster to cut in red-blue than it is in yellow. So in red-blue, you cut the bushes to bike straight up to the Safari Zone. But in yellow, it is actually faster to bike all the way around the bushes. And then here, at the entrance, you walk up into this guy's vision, because you don't have a turn frame if you get pulled over to the right. But if you like turn naturally while you're in that gatehouse, then it wastes 2 frames. And now we have some encounter manipulation here through the Safari Zone. You can see it's very precise because we actually don't use very many A presses anymore through the Safari Zone. You can see 1 there, but we're not going to have any more on the rest of the path. And you can see just 1 more there, and we are through all the 8 presses. And getting Surf at 5901. But now that we've biked through Fuchsia on the way to the Safari Zone, we can fly back there and be on the little plateau where the PC and Koga's gym are without having to bike all the way around. So here, on this Kadabra, is where you get outsped if you do the double Clefairy fight and have less experience. And now, on Hypno, we have part of our red bar management. So the Thrash can crit the Drowsy right away because we don't have to worry about color lag if we get a one shot, but on the second turn, we hit Hypno with a regular Thrash first that stays in green bar. Then we get hit by Hypno's Confusion for a critical all the way down to 3 HP, regaining red bar, and then we finish with a Thrash crit to take out the Hypno. And now on Koga, we get an we X speed and then get Sleep Powder to fail from Venonat, because that's the fastest move that Venonat can use. And then with the X speed set up, we can now outspeed even the level 50 Venomoth. And now having defeated Koga, our speed becomes a lot less of a problem, because we have a badge boost to speed from Koga. Even though he tells you that his badge increases your Pokemon's defense, they actually messed up the game's coding, and the badge boosts have nothing to do with what the gym leaders tell you they do. The Surge boost boosts your defense. The Koga boost boosts your speed, and the Blaine boost boosts your special. So basically the Koga and Surge boosts are swapped from what you would expect them to be. Now here, after getting Strength, we can fly straight to Palette. You can actually double input, because you can hold A to select that you want to fly, and then hold the button continuing like A, and then press B at the right time. It reapplies A such that you fly to Palette 1 frame faster than if you were just to like tap A to start fly, and then tap A again to fly to Palette. There's a lot of places in the TAS that use reapply strats like that. The most common one is anytime you get on the bicycle, you press A and then hold A and add B at a certain point to clear the text. And then you have to press B one more time for a second text box. But another common place that you can use it is in all the mart shopping that you saw. While you're mashing A to get in, you can't really do double inputs. But while you're leaving, there's one place where you can press B, hold B, and then add a direction, and it will close 2 of the menus back to back. And that's 1 frame faster than if you were to press B and then manually press B again to close the menu. Yes, there is some time loss here with A presses, manipulating away encounters in the what am I thinking? In the mansion, the Cinnabar mansion. And yes, now that we've rushed going to the mansion right after Koga, so like Koga is the first gym who allows you to use Surf, so you have to rush Koga also, like not only for getting that speed badge boost, but so that you can surf to the mansion. And then doing the mansion right away after that, we get Blizzard, so that we have Blizzard available when we go to Erica next. The fast poof, I can mention that, but there's a trick you do actually to hold B whenever you press A to teach over a move. So you press A and then hold B, and it actually like speeds up this text. It's like 1, 2, 3 poof to hold B during it. But for some reason, the deeper you get into the game and like different moves that you teach, the poof acts differently. So the blizzard poof is a lot slower than earlier poofs like the thrash poof. It might also have to do with being in red bar at the thrash poof. Whereas when you teach blizzard, you have to be in the overworld. But continuing on here on Erica, now that we have Blizzard, and we have to teach Blizzard immediately for bag space concerns, because when we pick up Blizzard, we just dropped a slot in the mansion. We dropped the slot, I think it's with an elixir, some kind of elixir item. Maybe ether over in the Pallet Town. And then we can refill that slot by getting Blizzard. But unless we drop 2 items in Pallet Town and not just 1, then we have to immediately use up the Blizzard so that you can go get the secret key, which allows you to go fight Blaine. And interestingly, here in red-blue, there are additional text boxes on all of these quiz questions. It re-explains the whole quiz every time you do a question, but in yellow it does not do that. So yellow's Blaine quiz is actually much faster than red-blue's. It's still very monotonous though to task, because all you have to do is press A for text boxes, or B, depending on the question. Yeah, and I should say it's not too monotonous now that we've done it at least once, because we can copy-paste pretty large sections of at least the text mashing between TASes. But all of the RNG-related sections, like trainer battles, end up having to be rewritten and remanipulated. Here, critically, we get Tail of Fail from Ninetales while we're setting up X speed. We do need to X speed because we use the Oko move Horn Drill on Blaine's Pokemon. $109.56 Blaine. That's a nice cutoff that we get from the new TAS improvements, having the Blaine fight be sub 110. So yeah, the old TAS was a 136.34, and this new one is a 126.54. So it's like 7.5 to 8 seconds faster by RTA. Not exactly sure because there's some cycle counting weirdness. And by frame count though, it's closer to like 6.5 seconds. Oh right, it's 6.5 seconds in the published TAS, but it's closer to 7.5 seconds against the console verified version of the last TAS. So there's some like question there of how much the improvement of the 465 frames is related to console verification differences. And this here, the strategy for the Saffron... I'm not saying Saffron. We are in Saffron, but we call this the Silphco Tower. The strategy for getting the Silphco Tower optimally involves here rushing the Arbok trainer that guards the card key. And in normal RTA runs, often that is done only if you're doing a strat called late EQ. Because there's an Earthquake TM that's very, very useful for RTA runners in the Silphco Tower. But in TAS, we don't need Earthquake, and you especially don't want to use a move like Earthquake, which has a flash animation compared to the usual shake animations for moves like Horn Drill. And here, oh, now we have the newest improvement to the TAS. We do have to use one flash animation move here, the Surf Crit on Ninetales, because the PP routing just doesn't work without that. But I will mention, so I was talking about the Earthquake strategy. Usually RTA runners of Yellow immediately get Earthquake in Silphco Tower, so they can use Earthquake on a bunch of the successive fights. Because we can control critting and things like that in TAS, and manipulate all these Horn Drill uses, we don't ever need to get Earthquake. And instead, in order to get through Agatha, we get Fissure from the Giovanni fight. So we drop a bag slot to force getting the TM, and we actually get Giovanni's Fissure, and use that as the move to be able to affect Agatha's Pokemon. And that's a lot faster than going over and grabbing Earthquake from that dedicated Earthquake room after fighting Giovanni. And here you can see the power of Blizzard being able to crit Blizzard on Weezing and take it out in one hit, even though Weezing is a tank. And we can take out Arbok with a Thunderbolt crit, and Meowth with a Thunderbolt. Not even a crit Thunderbolt. That Meowth is so weak, you can just Thunderbolt it and it doesn't even need to crit. Now, that Thunderbolt crit is a little bit precise, but especially precise is the Thunderbolt crit onto the Persian. That's a very, very tight range to be able to take out that Persian with a Thunderbolt crit. And then we go back to Blizzarding for Rhyhorn and Giovanni's Nidoqueen. I'm not sure if it's a 1 in 39 crit or if it's like just like a couple of points in the range. But it's really close. Not quite as bad as Red-Blue there, though. Red-Blue has some insane strategies in the Silph fights. Oh, like, I think you, like, Thunderbolt crit a Kangaskhan or something. I can't remember. I can't remember right now off the top of my head for some reason. So at Sabrina here, we manipulate Abra to use Flash so that we can get the but it failed text from Flash failing on Abra. And then we can just drill Abra and Kadabra and Alakazam since we've been able to use X speed. Yeah, one of the Japanese TASs of Pokemon actually used Bubble Beam to speedfall opposing Pokemon that it couldn't outspeed instead of using X speed. But like, the amount of time it takes to use, like, connect with Bubble Beam and make it speedfall and not having an extra space in your, like, move selection, it's just a lot worse. Though, in Red Blue, even in, like, the English Red Blue TAS, you do keep Bubble Beam for a long time because there's a lot more Pokemon that are affected by it enough that you can use it instead of moves like Horn Drill, and you can use it for effective PP management. Pokerus isn't Gen 1. You can see our red bar creeping up here. We didn't take nearly as much damage at the Silph Ninetales fight. So what's going to happen with our red bar as we continue getting tons of levels from these endgame Pokemon in Giovanni's gym? You can see we can take out Machoke with a Thunderbolt crit. It's a pretty similar strategy to get through this black belt in Yellow RTA, being able to either X Special or X Attack, and then use moves like Blizzard and Thunderbolt to get through the very defense-oriented and not special-oriented fighting Pokemon. But even at a lower level here, we can just skip using X Special and go straight to critting. And now the Giovanni Gym Battle. Again, we have to rush using X speed, and then when critically here, very critically, we manipulate Giovanni to use Guard Spec on Dugtrio's turn, because Guard Spec is by far the fastest thing that can print out for Dugtrio to use. And now we're continuing to just obliterate everything with Horn Drill now that we outspeed. And you can see we got another level up in Red Bar there. And a 120.55 through Giovanni. The technology. Now, here, we have to scroll to the bottom of our bag at some point to teach Thrash, but we also get Fissure, like I mentioned earlier, because we dropped the bag slot by using a PP restoring move on the way to Giovanni. And with that bag slot drop, we get the Fissure TM, and then we can use that to affect Agatha's Pokemon with Fissure, instead of having to worry about getting Earthquake in Silph Co. But now, we're going to have the critical piece of the new red bar route that's saving us these last 72 frames that I mentioned in my title. Very, very important 72 frame save. Let's see how we do it. So we still have Blizzard on the Sand Slash. We still have Fissure on Execute, mainly because we run out of Blizzards. Still have Fissure on Magnet. Again, we're out of everything other than Fissure here, so we just go straight into using Fissure, even though it has a lot of extra, like, text issues. But critically here, Quick Attack Crit for the min roll 26 damage from Ninetales. That puts us to 4 HP out of 145. And also, at the beginning, we're at 30 out of 145. That is the highest that you can be at and still be in red bar at this fight. So we manipulate the previous two things, the Hypno Hit and the Quick Attack at Silph Rival Ninetales, to give us just enough damage to be at the maximum 30 HP and get hit for 26 down, to, again, to the highest you can be and still be in red bar. 4 HP through that fight. And now, we do not need to take damage from Agatha, as previously, in order to maintain red bar through the champion fight. The reason that 30 out of 145 still works for red bar is that the actual percentage for red bar that you need to be below is 10 out of 48. The way it's calculated is, if your HP is at or below the 10 out of 48 pixel mark on the HP bar, then, actually I think it's strictly below, I'm not sure if it's at or below, but if it's below this 10 out of 48 ratio, because the HP bar is 48 pixels long, that 10 pixels is reserved for the red bar section, so if you're below that, you're in red bar. That's why it's important to be below 1048s, and then the way that ratio works out for out of 145, you're still in red bar at 30 out of 145. But if we were even 1 point higher, like 31 out of 145, we would not be in red bar. Fissure for RDA? When you can find something else to use on all the fights between Silph and getting Fissure. And on all the fights that you do into different orders so that you can get Earthquake sooner in RTA. So a lot of this is carefully manipulated to not get encounters again. And there's our swag boulder for some encounter manipulation. Dropping through here, we reuse strength, and then we use an elixir while we're getting on our bike, so that we are full on Horn Drill and all of our moves for entering the Elite Four, without having to take the Elite Four Center, which would kill our red bar. Our very carefully maintained red bar. Swag PC at the Indigo Plateau, as they call it. And now we have the Lorelei fight. Speed isn't really much of an issue here anymore. At least on this bike. They don't call him Slow Bro for nothing. We do fissure the Jinx, specifically so that we'll have one more drill available. And now on to Bruno. This is all stuff here on Lorelei and Bruno that was done originally in previous versions of the TAS, but the Agatha fight will have a new exclusive improvement because of the new red bar management that I was talking about with saving the 72 frames. The new red bar management allows us to save time on the Agatha fight. So you can see here how Blizzard is used to get through the Bruno fight without using any of our one-hit KO moves. And we use one more drill on the champ. Ah, perfect time, Minnow. We get to see just the latest improvement right here on Agatha. Welcome, everyone. So, what we did is we changed the points where we managed red bar at Sylph Ninetales and at the Viridian Rival Ninetales, so that we would be in much lower red bar after the quick attack from Viridian Rival Ninetales. And now here at Gengar, we can use X Speed, and it's going to lick Gen 1 Miss. And now we have Fissure on Gengar 72 frames faster than the previous TAS, which we had just done a couple days ago, and now we're back here. Gotta crit the Golbat, but then yes, we've managed it just so that Fissure though it does have to be super effective against Haunter, we do not need Horn Drill to have effectiveness text against Arbok. So that's very carefully manipulated with the different moves we use on Lorelei and Bruno. Yes, it's very much so like that, the Cram. We're just simply watching a movie, a script, a roll of inputs timed to the cycle that I wrote for you guys to be able to watch. And with the convenience that it plays back on a real console using Game Boy interface. So what you guys are watching right now, coming from Minnow, is not simply just us playing back the TAS in an emulator. I actually have the TAS dumped using a script so that it can be played back on the Game Boy player with Game Boy interface. So this is a real cartridge of Pokemon Yellow. Actually, my childhood cartridge of Pokemon Yellow that you're seeing the TAS run on. And I love this Gyarados thing where, like, we don't need to worry about X Special. Oh yeah, so Minnow, this is capture from Game Boy Interface speedrun that is tuned specifically for a high quality capture from a PCIe capture card. There's some, you need to have specifically the latest version of the GC video firmware, so like a brand new Carby. You can send them back to them to update them if you can't update it yourself. Like you can mail it into either like Eon or Insurrection Industries to get the firmware updated. But you need to be on the latest firmware because the other ones had some video bugs that made the capture quality a little bit worse. And then you also need to have a Game Boy Interface speedrun CLI file with like exactly the right tuning to take advantage of the new firmware. And you need to have a capture card that's internal. Yeah, and the quality can even go higher if you use GBI HF and have an RGB capture card. This is a little bit lower because we wanted to use SR to have the input viewer in the upper left, and also because my RGB capture card has weird glitches with my motherboard. But yes, the ending of the TAS here, we've gotten the Lick Gen 1 miss from Agatha, and now we are in Red Bar on Champ. Get Kinesis fail from Alakazam on our X-Speed setup turn. Like, usually you think of setting up on Sand Slash, but no, because Alakazam has Kinesis, that fail text is a lot better than anything that could happen from Sand Slash. And now Ninetales, we manipulate to not quick attack. We already have our red bar maintained. Please don't quick attack us. And we drill Magneton here. Again, choosing when we use Fissure and Horn Drill around the idea of minimizing when we get the effectiveness text. Yeah, we lose Rival 1 intentionally because, well, for one, it's faster than winning outright. Usually, even in RTA, it just like ends up being slower because of the changes you have to do later in the TAS when you lose. But it's also, like, it doesn't affect the Pidgeotto fight at all to lose. Like, the extra experience doesn't get you anything. And then you want to be, you want Ninetales to be in the rival party so that you can use its quick attack to maintain red bar at the Sylph fight and at the Viridian rival fight, which is exactly how we managed to get the new 72 frame improvement with Agatha's Lick Gen 1 missing instead of Agatha's Lick connecting for red bar management. And yes, now just a couple more inputs! A couple more inputs of sync! Please! Game! Last. We're so close. I shouldn't actually be scared at all. It's very reliable syncing these TASes. Like, if you guys wanted to watch it, sit and watch again, we could run another playback. And there is the very close to the official time, 1:36:26. It's officially a 1:36:26.54. So this is just confirming that the TAS timing is very close to like what we theoretically would predict from the number of cycles. And for those RTA runners here, this is equivalent to roughly a 1:36:15 in RTA. But yeah, thank you all for whoever stuck around to watch all of that, especially with the new 72 frame improvement at Agatha. I'm a really, really big fan of that, like, small optimization to the red bar route. I think it makes the TAS look very, very clean now. There's not much of anything that I can think of that could give us big time saves to this TAS, so I'm really excited to have it submitted and hopefully approved soon on TASVideos for publication. And I will update the video commentary on TASVideos with this new video here and get this over on YouTube with the 72 frame improvement. And there's the end. Thank you guys again for watching. This has been TiKevin83. If you are excited about TAS speedruns, tool-assisted speedruns, we're going to be at GDQ with TASBot on Saturday, starting at around 4:30 p.m. We have a Freedom Planet TAS. And then for you Game Boy fans, I got a Game Boy TAS in. We're going to have Link's Awakening DX TAS live on console at GDQ on Saturday around 5 p.m. And that's going to be coming to you live right from here, this couch. We're going to have the original TAS authors, including Twisted Tamer from Link's Awakening DX, and on the Freedom Planet TAS, Triss and Flittervy. And for you Pokemon fans, don't miss Etiquette's speedrun after mine and Etchy's speedrun on Thursday. So, thanks again everyone. Have a good evening.